Right, so this is where I do most of my story work. There's a lot of things going on in this room, and it would have been a very difficult thing to actually just sit down with a blank piece of paper and just start writing a story. It's only by visualizing everything in a physical space that it starts to slowly make sense and coalesce.
Hellblade was always conceived as a story-led experience, punctuated by moments of intense combat. Unlike our previous titles, Hellblade is not a linear game, so creating a story required a different approach from us.
Games don't need stories to be entertaining, so if you're going to do a story-driven game, then you have to ask yourself, why is this story worth telling? Why does it deserve to exist? I've always been interested in how the mind works, and I was reading about people's experiences with severe psychotic mental illness, and I was really horrified by what I was reading and video representations of what it can be like for some people.
No, don't open it.
He has to open the box.
This is entirely your fault.
Don't eat it. Don't eat it. Poison. Poison.
I started to think about the role video games could have in representing that, and it occurred to me that in games you embody a character and you see things visually and orally, and you're involved in navigating worlds and decision making, and actually this is a profoundly good medium for representing those kinds of experiences, at least attempting to represent those kinds of experiences.
You will die here.
We'll all die someday.
It's getting dark.
I'll continue tomorrow.
You're afraid of the dark.
I'm being patient.
Getting closer to him.
I hope so.
For me personally, when I start developing a story, I start with research, a lot of research, and speaking to experts. So in this case, we got in touch with Paul Fletcher, who's a psychiatrist and professor of health neuroscience at Cambridge University. It's very important to get both a scientific understanding of the subject and also a very personal and human understanding of the subject.
A big helping hand came from Wellcome Trust, who are a global charitable foundation dedicated in part to broadening the understanding of science.
One of the great strengths of games as a medium is it allows us not just to read or hear about other people's lived experiences, but allows us to actually explore other worlds and experience other perspectives firsthand. That offers particular opportunities when it comes then to trying to advance understanding of conditions related to the mind.
Support from Wellcome Trust meant that we could engage deeply with researchers, as well as have access to patient groups who would tell us directly about their experiences.
This is how you create a character that feels real, by basing her on real people and real stories.
I see you.
On this wall here we've got Senua's character. So she's placed centrally here, and around her are the different voices in her head that go on this journey with her. And each of them has a distinct personality and character and represents something to her. I often use pictures of famous actors or people I know because it helps me visualize a voice and a face when writing the story. This is where I've laid out her backstory. So I often start, well, on this game I started with tons of these, lots of little notes that represents moments in her past, and I'd come up with a couple hundred of these, and you can see them all here in a big pile, and I'd stick them all on the wall and see if I can start seeing patterns, see if I can start building a narrative. And in this case I split her story into 4 phases of her life: childhood, girl, teen and adulthood. I distilled each of the posters down, each of the periods down to the bare minimum I thought I could get away with, each representing a complete story for that part of her life. At this point, I'm not even thinking about how you tell the story in the game. I'm just trying to define who she is. I want to believe that she's a real person and that the things she goes through in her life make sense.
They know you're weak. Get up and fight. You're pathetic.
Control the fear. Let it pass through. Remember, everyone.
Find the light, the light is your straight line to ground.
Open your eyes.
Games are not like movies, which generally have a standardized 3-act structure that's told linearly. Every game has its own structure, so there's an additional dimension that has to be worked out before you can begin to write the story. So on this tabletop, I've put a representation of the structure of the world. So it's a big volcanic caldera with an island in the middle and various pathways out. And I started to put some of those post-its on this table and just try chucking them out in different areas and trying to figure out how the flow of the gameplay might work. This isn't a linear game like Heavenly Sword or DMC. It's actually got a semi-linear or semi-open structure. So the idea is that as you're traveling deeper and deeper into Helheim, you're uncovering these memories, these backstories, and they appear to her as hallucinations, as sometimes frightening hallucinations, but they're linked to her past, and if she can overcome those challenges, she can go deeper into Helheim, into her quest, but also deeper into her own psyche, and so she starts to understand herself better.
Maybe I must help them. They were calling for me.
The story can't be just something that happens in cutscenes. It has to be present in everything you see, touch, hear and play. The entire world structure is the story structure. Here are just some ideas on how we tell the story, how we replace things like keys and doors and locks and collectibles that you see in many games and change them up, change them into things that are more about human perception, apophenia, seeing patterns and faces in the world, and illusions to create new pathways and unlock new parts of Helheim. Over several weeks, the story and the structure of Helheim started to coalesce and make sense. But even so, it was very difficult to know what this would play like and feel like. So we took a small section of the map and made this the basis of our first playable.
The darkness. It gathers in the wind. It's getting stronger.
This process has taken a year, and only now are we at a point where we can start to embark on the full script development and really write the story in script form as the player would experience it.
Over the coming weeks, members of the Hellblade team will be fleshing out the details of the story and gameplay. Ultimately, creating a story experience is a group effort across many disciplines.
I just wanna feel deeper, deeper.
One last thing, we're looking for an accomplished sound lead to join the Hellblade team. Given that we only have one sound position on Hellblade, responsibilities will include all aspects of sound creation and implementation. If you think this could be you, then please visit ninjatheory.com/jobs for more information.